You're listening to the Savoir Faire audio experience.
Are you ready?
The Savoir Faire experience is your guide to everything that has to do with lifestyle. From dating, rides, style, and entertainment. All brought to you by the editor of Savoir Faire magazine, Robert White. Anything goes on this audio experience. So, let's go.
It's still the best.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Savoir Faire audio experience. Thank you guys for following, sharing, listening, being involved. Super appreciate that. Today we have a really awesome interview for you. I'm super excited to be able to speak with this gentleman. Today we're talking with Austin Pendleton. How are you, Austin?
I'm very good, thank you.
I love it, man. This is a voice that rings through for so many people. If you've watched My Cousin Vinny, if you saw Short Circuit, if you saw these movies that are iconic, you've heard this man's voice and seen him acting. He is now doing a bunch of theater stuff that we want to talk about, and I'm super kind of over the moon to be able to chat with you a little bit, which is super cool, and I definitely appreciate it. But I want to learn more about you, Austin, because I know there's so many things that people get to see, obviously, you in movies and stuff, but we don't really get to learn the details of like who you are as a person in life and stuff. And so can you kind of take me back to the beginning a little bit and just talk to me about how acting actually started for you?
Okay, well, my mother had been a professional actress. The reason that stopped, you know, the play The Children's Hour?
Not one that I'm familiar with, no, unfortunately, but go ahead.
Okay. The Children's Hour is about it was adapted from a real story that happened in Scotland. It was adapted by Lillian Hellman. And the two young women had fallen into disgrace because one of them had a lesbian feeling for the other. And so, and there are a lot of very flashy parts of the students, the girls. So they were in rehearsal. My father proposed, but she got this part, and this is going to be a national tour. But during the course of the rehearsal, all the producers across the country read the play and were appalled by the lesbian thing. So that's why we're talking today.
Oh, okay. So did you kind of grow up in the theater movie world? Like, were you kind of the young kid running around with mom while she was doing her career?
Well, no, she'd given up her professional career. But after the war, the people in Warren began a community theater. And Warren's in Trumbull County. The theater was called Trumbull New Theater, in other words, TNT.
Mm.
And the first rehearsals were in our living room at night. And my younger brother and I, after dinner, would arrange the furniture. I was 8, he was 7. And then we were supposedly sent up to bed. Then we would come down and sneak and hide and watch the rehearsals. And I just became obsessed with putting on a play.
That's super cool. I love that it's kind of like it was in your living room. I have a story very similar where really large kind of celebrities and people were in my living room when I was in my childhood, and it really kind of influenced me to do a lot of things that I do now. So it's cool that you guys kind of made the living room was the stage, and so your mom was bringing work home basically, and you got adapted to it through that.
Yeah, where was your childhood? Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Western New York, pretty much, but I moved away when I was a teenager to Nashville, and I really kind of say that most of my influential years kind of happened there. So I was a big part of the music scene and stuff when I was there as a child, as a late teen into my early 20s.
Did you ever see the Robert Altman film called Nashville?
I did. Yeah, I have seen that one. Yeah.
I'm crazy about that movie.
It's a good one. It's definitely a good one. So that's super cool. So obviously as a kid, you're kind of admiring what mom's doing, kind of getting a taste of it at home. When did you kind of break into the industry and start doing your own castings and start putting yourself into it more?
Well, after I graduated from school, I went down to New York and almost immediately got a part in a play called Oh Dad, Poor Dad, Mama's Sitting in the Closet, Not Feeling So Sad. And I played that for a year. It was directed, of all people, by Jerome Robbins, you know, West Side Story and all that. Mm. And the part was extremely difficult for me because the character has a stutter. I, as a child, had a stutter. But I got into acting too, because usually it would go away. But over the year, it became very hard to control the stuttering. So um, finally, I, with great relief, got fired. And I was in this thing called the Lincoln Center Training Program, and they were planning for what was going to be the American National Theater, which of course never really happened. But the in the morning was the movement teacher, Anna Sokolov, this wonderful choreographer, fierce Russian-born choreographer. And so I went in the day after I got fired, and I was happy to be fired, but still, fired is fired. And she said, she had said to the class before, Austin is nowhere near as good as any of the rest of you, but at least Austin is there. So she came over to me in her leotards, I'm in my leotard, and she said, Austin, you're not here. What's the matter? Hello?
Yep.
Yeah. There's a beeping going on.
Oh, weird. Yeah. I'm not hearing the beeping at all. So, but I'm here. I got you.
Yeah. Okay. So she came over to me and I said, well, I got fired last night. And she said, and this changed my life. She said, so what? And that became a foundation for the whole way I moved through this profession. Is that you just don't get thrown by things,
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think, like I have a little bit of a sales background. They have this sales philosophy that says every time you are told no, you're getting closer to a yes. And I would have to, I'd have to assume that like it's the same thing in acting and film and doing Broadway. Like every time someone just says you're not the right person for this, I mean, you're just getting closer to the opportunity that's coming your direction.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really great philosophy. I wanted to kind of dive into a little bit of your career stuff here. And I know this is going to be hard for you because your career is extremely vast. But, I obviously have highlights of you in different films that I kind of grew up with and that are a part of my world. Yeah. I'm educating my children about Short Circuit and My Cousin Vinny now. And so, these are films that like they have to know about, right? This is just part of the list. There's cult followings around this stuff.
Yeah.
What are some highlights from your perspective on your career? Like, just give me some tidbits of things that like really do stand out for you when you just sit still with your coffee and think about your career.
You mean in film and theater?
Anything, yeah. Like literally the highlight moments of your career. I'm really curious about, from your perspective, what those are.
A huge event was Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mr. Zero Mostel.
Can you tell me a little bit of that story? Yeah.
Well, first of all, I studied with Uta Hagen, and she'd given me a wonderful, delicious note one day. She said, Austin, you have a constipating sense of truth. Which,
what does that mean?
It means she thought I was always examining my work and wondering whether it was truthful or not.
Okay.
And then she would say, well, when I worked with Zero Mostel, that was blown away because you never knew what he was going to do next, ever, not once in the whole run.
Wow.
He would do outrageous things. Some of the cast, were offended by that, but for me, it was kind of like a liberation.
Yeah, I love that kind of energy. I like people that keep me on my toes when I'm around them, which is kind of what New York City does for most of us, right? You're just always on your toes. That's probably why we appreciate the environment. But I do like people that bring really unique energy to projects because it really does lighten the mood a little bit. I mean, I guess you have like good, bad, and ugly stories, right? I mean, is there kind of one for each category, like a real highlight, but then also something that we don't need to mention names, but something that just didn't sit with you right when you were, younger in your career?
Well, when things went wrong, it was usually my fault, actually.
Okay, understandable. So it's just kind of like things that you're missing, or you have to repeat a line a dozen times before the producer's just like, that's okay. We're not getting it. What's happening right now?
Yeah. You want an example of that?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to hear the stories you have.
Well, there are about 400 of those.
Okay, let's do like one really good one for us.
Oh, so what exactly do you want an example of?
Well, I guess I'm kind of like curious about the good, bad, and ugly. I mean, your career's been so vast. You've seen so much. I'm really curious about like professionally the things that you've kind of ran into in your career that were, highlights or even things that, stories you tell your friends kind of stuff.
Oh my God, what's an example? Tell a story about the Muppet movie. Oh yeah, the Muppet movie. This is
Okay. This sounds good. Yeah.
So the director was this very brilliant guy named Jim Frawley. But on the shooting of the Muppet movie, he was very, very depressed. Very depressed. So despite the feeling of the movie, it was a terrible atmosphere. I remember once somebody came up to me with a bottle closed, and inside was a rattlesnake. It was that kind of atmosphere. But so then I played almost all my scenes were played opposite Charlie Durning. Well, he made Charlie Durning overact terribly. But then a few months later, do you know what looping is?
Say that word again.
The word is looping.
Oh yeah, I know what that is. Yep.
Yeah, where you come in. Well, now, so we had to loop literally every scene I was in with Charlie Durning. This is 6 months after it was made. This guy who was so difficult. He was very troubled actually. But in the looping, and which took hours, it's the hardest looping I ever did. He was superb.
Wow.
He was so patient. He was so, and because it's the longest looping session that either I or Charlie ever had. But he was so patient. He was so specific. He was so careful. He was so respectful. So something wonderful had really happened to him in the interim.
Interesting. So he kind of had a complete switch of personality. Like you just saw things change.
Well, I think that he'd been, probably having some treatment.
Okay. I mean, that's helpful too, right? That makes sense.
Yeah. No,
Wow.
I mean, I probably had maybe been to a psychiatrist or something.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. You were mentioning earlier that someone had told you like when you got fired from a job, like who cares? Like don't let it sit with you.
Yeah.
When I look at your resume of all of the films and things that you've been a part of, everything you've done, I feel like the storyline must be forever on how many people you've actually worked with. There are legendary actors that we could sit here and name all day long, and somewhere along the line, you've worked with them in some way. And so as a younger guy in the entertainment industry, I'm asking for real good life advice here, I guess, and also for my audience. But from your perspective, working with so many different characters, but also extremely talented people, what is like a life rule that you've kind of put into place for yourself when you're dealing with so many different personalities and still being able to have a successful career?
Well, I'll tell you a very interesting story about Uta Hagen. Okay, she was, like any good acting teacher, she said, try to avoid the director giving results. And in other words, you have to like work through things. And it's very difficult if a director demands results. Well, there was this brilliant director by the name of Michael Pokoyanis, and he was directing a play called The Devils about this crazy nuns. One of the young women was having trouble, and so she said to Hagen, she said, Pokoyanis want results. What should I do? And Uta said, give them to him. That was tremendous. In other words, she was saying, your training is your training, but when you work with somebody who is averse to your training, you have to go with them. That was the moment that when she said that to that young woman, that really changed my whole perspective.
Interesting. No, I like that. That makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, also from your experience, do you share that knowledge with younger actors that ask you questions about your career or their other perspective?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's super cool. Well, I want to fan out with you for a minute, and then I would definitely want to dive into some of the new stuff you have going on.
Okay.
A cult movie from my childhood is Short Circuit, and I could talk about all my favorite scenes with Howard Marner in this movie. I love this character, so cool. I mean, I love the whole movie. But AI and robotics is so huge right now. I'd love to kind of throw back to this and talk a little bit about this movie that came out in 1986 of all times. That had a robot in it, and you play such a cool character in this film.
Yeah.
I want to fan out with you a little bit. Can you tell me some secrets from Short Circuit that most people don't know, or something that happened on the set that is just like abnormal story you might not have told a lot of people?
There's nothing abnormal. No. The great thing about it is that John Badham, the director, is very, very patient.
Okay.
That's all.
So was there a lot of new actors, like people launching their careers on this? Is that why the patience was so important?
Well, that was Steve Gutenberg, who's a lovely fellow. And he was great to work with. He was very, And who was the young woman in Short Circuit?
Okay.
Well, yeah. But so there were no people. But the thing about John Badham is just his patience.
Yeah, that's really cool. So is Johnny Five?
The young woman was Ali Sheedy.
Okay. Was Johnny Five a remote control, or they just moved it all the time?
What?
Was Johnny Five like a remote controlled thing, or was it just moved all the time? How was it moving around in the movie? Like, what was part of that?
It was just moved out. It was long before the technological advances of today, so they just moved it around.
Okay, so it's like a big puppet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yo, that's cool. So that's what I'm looking for. I love that secret. So now I know straight from the mouth of the man, which is perfect. Well, let's dive into new stuff, okay? Obviously, you have a very vast career. I definitely could fan out a little bit. But right now, we want to talk about the Resident Acting Company is doing a series called A Midsummer's Night Dream. It's going to be here in New York City, October 11th through November 2nd. And you are a part of this. It's obviously a William Shakespeare play, but it's told by the Mechanicals, which is a completely different perspective than most people have challenged. So talk to me about, talk to me a little bit about the role and what's kind of happening with this. And, which are you, their opening night? Are you a part of the whole series? I want to learn more.
Well, I mean, it's not part of the whole series. No, it's just this one show.
Okay.
And so we're in rehearsal now, and Bottom is the part that I'm playing. And the director is a very quiet, patient guy, very witty, and he's just gradually moving us along.
Okay.
The whole cast, there's a wonderful atmosphere in the room. Then there's a play. I'm at the same time, I do one in the afternoon, the other in the evening. The one in the evening that I'm directing is a play called Italian-American Reconciliation by John Patrick Shanley.
Oh, wow. Where's that one being shown at, or where are you doing that production?
Well, actually, they're being done in the same place.
Okay.
Down there. Yeah.
So they're both on Bleecker Street then.
Yeah, in a building called The Sheen.
Okay, very cool.
Sheen, yeah.
So your character, your perspective on that character, you're playing Bottom, right? So what is the perspective of this? Talk to me a little bit about what this play is like representing.
What the play represents?
Yeah, like this different perspective. I'm very curious about the perspective of the mechanicals compared to other perspectives that we've already seen from A Midsummer's Night Dream. Like, you can only do something so much, right? And now we've got this new perspective.
Yeah. Well, it just gives it a kind of a rough texture. So it doesn't have the ethereal quality that it usually has. So and what I like about it is because it's all the mechanicals, it's all just very down to earth, which makes it very funny.
Yeah. Is there crowd engagement within this one too, where you guys are kind of talking to the crowd a little bit more or bringing them into the conversation?
A whole lot of that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that's a cool aspect too, because now you're kind of bringing people in that are not only just Shakespeare fans, but people that love to engage with the actors while they're in the perspective of the play as well, right?
That's right.
Yeah, love that. Very cool. Well, let's direct some people to this stuff. Obviously, A Midsummer's Night Dream by William Shakespeare, as told by the Mechanicals. Austin Pendleton is a big piece of this. He will be playing the bottom. This is going to be October 11th through November 2nd. It's at the, what's the theater called? Frank Shiner Theater, right?
Shaen, Sheen.
Sheen's, okay. And it's on Bleecker Street there in New York City.
But on the corner. It's on the corner of Bleecker Street and Elizabeth Street.
Okay, very cool. No, I love this. I mean, I love the people that connected us. They consistently kind of connect me with really great people. And, you know, honestly, Austin, it's truly an honor. You have had a fabulous career. I just want to just give homage to that. Like, I'm so glad that, you know, life happens the way that it does. I mean, when I was 10 years old, I'm watching Short Circuit and falling in love with a robot. And here I am in my mid-40s now, talking to one of the idols from the movie, which is super cool. I just love how life kind of connects people. So thank you to your team, and definitely thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the show. Please take a minute to head over to www.savfair.com and subscribe to our publication.